It is stunning to me when people plan their stalks that they just ad hoc. It doesn't matter if they're archery hunting or rifle hunting. They will find an animal and they will briefly think about a few things. The wind, you know, how they can obscure themselves in the vegetation or topography on the approach, some very basic things, and then they'll just run off and try to get as close as possible to that deer or elk or bear and shoot it, right? And they will have no idea where they're gonna shoot from. If you wanna up your chances of killing an animal with a bow or a rifle, and you're spotting it and stalking it on your stalks, on your very first step on that stalk, you need to know the exact position that you're planning on getting into, the exact yardage from the animal to that position, the exact vegetation you're gonna have to deal with, the exact rest you're gonna have to deal with, right? Are you gonna be able to shoot your rifle prone? Are you gonna have to shoot it seated? Are you gonna have to shoot off tall sticks? Are you gonna have to kneel when you draw your bow? On the first step on the stalk, you should know that. Sure, do things change? Yeah, of course things change, right? But if you do that, if on every stalk you say, hey, I'm gonna know the exact spot I'm going to, I'm gonna know that platform, the vegetation I'm dealing with, the yardage that animal is gonna be at, all of that. One, you're gonna find that it works out exactly like that way more often than you think. Two, you're gonna have a lot less just general idiotic moron level hunting screw ups, right? Opportunities that should have resulted in a dead animal that didn't, right? You're not gonna be digging into your pack, pulling out your bipod when you should have already had it attached to your gun because you knew you're gonna shoot prone, right? You knew there was a rock pile out there. All right, guys, on July 24th, I'm gonna do a live Q&A. So if you've been dying to get me to answer your specific question, this is your chance. It's gonna be here on YouTube. All of the details are gonna be at pursuitwithcliff.com/Kifaru. You can sign up there, you can submit questions. You can also sign up for the giveaway that I'm gonna do on that live stream. I'm gonna give away over $1,000 worth of Kifaru gear in addition to one of my custom knives and one of my sharpeners. So go check it out, pursuitwithcliff.com/Kifaru. I can give you a perfect example right there. If we know there's a rock pile out there and we know that that rock pile is 250 yards away from a bedded bull elk, and I know that I have a slight decline on that bull, I'm gonna shoot prone, right? Why not have my pack set up? Maybe I gotta add a little elevation to use it as a rest, as a front rest, right? I've got to add a little elevation to it. So I've got to have my windbreaker on top of it. I've got to have maybe even a little shooting bag on top of it, right? Attach that right now. Be ready. If I want to shoot off a bipod in that prone position, have the bipod on the rifle before the first step on the stock. I'm telling you, this will be a huge advantage for you. Now, the question is, how do you get there, right? How do you get all that information? It's crazy easy. As long as you got some decent range finding binoculars or a handheld rangefinder and Onyx, you can do it. It's freaking cake. I'm gonna run you through a hypothetical right now. We're gonna imagine that there's a bull elk bedded right here on the edge of that timber. I'm gonna show you with Onyx in conjunction with my range finding binoculars exactly how I'm gonna get all this information together before I step 1 foot on this stock. All right, so we've got Onyx at our position here. Then in front of us, you can see this dark stringer of timber here that's right to the right of the elk that I have marked with a waypoint, right? So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure where we have the animal marked that we're seeing visually, we want to make sure that that animal is actually where we think it is, right? So we don't want to have a false marker on the animal. The best way to confirm that is get your range finding binoculars out and look for a landmark that is near that animal, right? In this case, we have one tall tree right here. We can see it on Onyx. We can see that shadow of the tree right there. Okay, so I want to confirm that that tree is the tree I'm looking at, which from a mapping perspective on Onyx is just to the lower left of the bedded bull. So I'm going to hit it with my rangefinder. My rangefinder is giving me 345. So how do I confirm that that's the tree that we're looking at? I'm going to go right here. Here, I'm going to use this tool right here, the compass. This is going to give me a rangefinder, right? And then I'm just going to line that up right with that tree. There, looking at the scale on the left, you can see that that is basically 340 yards right there, right? The base of the tree is right there. So that is the tree we're talking about. And that bull, let's look here, let's range him. He's right up against the trees there. He's bedded at 5'10". I'm looking at my measuring stick here on Onyx. And so where I have the bull marked is actually incorrect because he's 5'10". So I'm actually going to take this waypoint off. I put him back here where I think he is. Now I'm going to go back to my tool. I can see that now we're basically right there, right? And then we can see right at 345, that's our tree we're looking at, right? So if I want to confirm, boom, the tree I'm using for just a vegetation landmark, boom, 345, lines up, and then directly behind it, right at basically 5'10", we've got our bedded bull. So I've used Onyx to confirm exactly where that animal is. It'll amaze you if you don't do this, if you don't go through this process. And once you've done it a few times, it's gonna take you like 30 seconds. If you don't do this, you will misjudge where that animal is almost every time, right? And the problem is once you get over there, if you don't have the animal marked correctly on Onyx, you're gonna get over there and everything's gonna look different, and you're gonna be looking for the animal where it never was, right? And you're gonna assume the animal moved, and then you're gonna get frustrated, and you're gonna move, you're gonna bump the animal, and you're gonna screw up an opportunity. That's what morons do, right? You can avoid that by doing this simple, by doing this simple process. Now, of course, if you want to, you can just use tools and you can do line distance, right? From where we're at to the base of the tree. Okay, 330, adjust here, basically 330, 345. So that's what we're looking at there. We can go to the bull, to the pool, basically 500, 510. So we're looking at the right thing. You can use the line tool the same way, the measuring line tool, to do the same exact thing. So now we're gonna identify where we wanna shoot from, and we're gonna do the exact same process before we start the stock. In this case, we're doing an archery stock. I think given the wind, we've got a thermal coming up out of this bottom. I think I'm gonna get into the cover here, go around this timber stringer up on the top, and I think I can drop in there right above him. Thermal's pulling my wind up out of there. I can drop in there. I think I'll be within reasonable distance to take an archery shot. Now here again, I gotta confirm that, right? I wanna confirm the exact distance from the shooting platform to the animal, archery or rifle. Mistake that people make, right? They go out there, they do an hour stalk, they're crawling around, they pop up where they think the animal is gonna be, where they think they have a reasonable shot, and they think they're gonna pop out at 45 yards, and they pop out and the animal's right there, and the animal's 180 yards from them, right? Or rifle, they think they're gonna pop out and it's gonna be 250 yards away from them. They pop out, range the animal, and it's 750 yards from them. This shit happens all over the West every year, and animals are not harvested because of it. It is low-hanging fruit, right? We have the tools, guys. So again, we know exactly where the animal is. We're not gonna screw that up. Now we're gonna find the exact shooting platform that we're going to, the exact location, and then we're gonna figure out the distance from that platform to the animal. There's a couple ways to guesstimate it. Oh, and I do have to mention, guys, because I'm sure it'll come up in the comments, there is technology out there, and there are a bunch of companies developing technology that does this automatically, right? Literally hit it with a range, hit the animal, hit the spot you want to shoot from, project it on the Onyx, project it on to other mapping software. That technology is on the horizon. The small amount of exposure that I have seen on that front, it's not quite ready for game time, right? So for right now, it's better if you just know these little steps. I think your results will be a whole lot better. Eventually, that will probably be the norm. It seems like a lot of technology, and it may be one of those things that also is stopped, right? There may be laws put in place in different states that make it so you can't do that. You can't just have interfaces between your binoculars and mapping software. I don't know, it kind of seems a little bit egregious, right? I mean, all of it does, but in the end, guys, I'm just giving you another tool that does work wonders for your stocks. So it's up to you if you want to use it. I had to say something because I know that'll come up in the comments and discussion about this video. All right, guys, in some of my content, you're gonna see that I've been using this chest holster from Invader Concepts. This is with my 10mm. I also use it with my Glock 19 and even a PMR 30. I'm gonna do a bunch of content here in the next couple months on that around bear defense. It should be interesting. interesting. It looks a little awkward to have your gun under your bino harness, but if you test out all the different variations, it is the best and you have it on you all the time. I do have a discount code, it's CliffG, and it's for 10% off. Go check them out. Okay, so I'm looking across there and I can see 2 tall pine trees in the open visually right there. And so first I wanna make sure that I know those are what I'm looking at. So what I'll do is, again, I'll throw my measuring stick on there. It's just the quickest way for me to do it. You know, they're basically somewhere around 440 yards, right? You can see on my stick. I'm just gonna double check. Hit it with my rangefinder. The base of them is 452 yards. So we're talking about the same 2 trees right there, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the corner of the tall stringer on the top there and see if I have an archery shot from that corner. And let me make sure that I'm looking at the exact low spot right there in the trees that I can sneak out to. It should be roughly 550 yards-ish, right? We can use the top line there, not 550, it's about 521 yards. Okay, we're gonna double check with our rangefinder. Okay, 520 yards, so we're looking at that spot. So now we're gonna solely depend on the Onyx tool, the measuring tool. So tools, line distance, drop a point right here. Go right to our bull. Look at that, 185 yards. Obviously not gonna work for archery. That's the exact example, right? Of course, I knew that, maybe that was an extreme case, but I actually didn't think it was 180 yards. I thought it was about 100, so I thought it was gonna be a little bit too far to shoot with a bow. It's obviously way too far to shoot with a bow, all right? So you can see how very easily you can think that you're gonna be within distance and you're not, right? And that's a fundamental, idiotic mistake to make before you execute a stalk. Now, one thing I will say that's also very important here is that there's value in knowing when you get to a point, right, that you're gonna shoot from, knowing exactly where the animal was the last time you saw it. Because if you don't know that distance, even outside of marksmanship and taking an ethical shot and all of that, it makes it very hard to re-find the animal once you're in the topography. Because once you're in the topography, like this topography is very open right now, right? The grain of the land is open to us. The minute we get in there, we're gonna be looking across the ridges and we're gonna be looking through the vegetation. And if we don't know the exact yardage from the shooting platform to where that animal is bedded, where we expect that animal to be, we are going to be all over the place on what we think, you know, where we think that animal should show up. And when that's the case, you have no idea, you end up bumping the animal, you end up in a stupid situation, you end up blowing the stock. But if you know the exact distance, you can sit from that shooting platform and look, okay, I know the animal is 62 yards from here, and just look at 62 yards, keep ranging. I'm looking at 62 yards, looks like there's some vegetation in there, he's probably just tucked right behind it, right? There's a little jutting ridge right there, maybe he's just over the edge of it, right? That's the kind of stuff that you put in a little patience, you're looking at that animal, pops up, perfect, executed stalk, dead animal, right? That's what you're looking for. You have to know that distance in order to make that happen. All right, so let's try this again. We'll try to get much closer for our archery shot this time. Okay, so I'm looking over there. I see a nice little clear spot underneath the tall timber there that I think can give me an angle on the bull from there. I'm looking on my Onyx. I think it's this spot right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that. I'll put an arrow there as my shooting platform, right? Let me double check that that's actually the spot we're looking at. This is a key component of it. Use your rangefinder, hit that spot, 525. Let's use our tools. Okay, 495. So we're probably in the realm. It's just slightly behind that is what we're looking at. Okay. Yeah, and there's a tree. I can see a tree to the left, so I'm gonna move this. Range my spot again. And I'm looking in there like, would I actually have the angle? And no problem. I'd be coming in from the top. I have that thermal right in my face. Yep, so like 525. 512. So we're within like 10, 15 yards. All right, so we're looking at that spot. I've got the exact spot I want to go to. I know I can get there. I can follow this rim around. I can drop down into that spot. Now I've got that confirmed. I've got where the elk is bedded confirmed. And once you've practiced this just half a dozen times, a dozen times, you're gonna be able to do what I'm doing right here in a matter of a minute and a half. Boom, boom, boom. Check your spots, know exactly where the animal is, know exactly where the shooting platform is. Look at that platform. In this case, I know I'm in the trees. It would be great if it was really windy today. I would know, hey, I'm gonna be affected, as an archer, I'm gonna be more affected by the wind, honestly, than my arrow. So I can tuck myself in those trees. It's gonna break the wind that's coming up this valley. I'm not gonna have that wind hitting me, so it's a good shooting platform, right? You can extend that to all the rifle situations too, right? If you're gonna be able to shoot prone. If that was a rifle shot up there, of course, we'd be talking about different distances, but I would know, look, there's quite a bit of brush in there. There's no way in hell I'm getting prone, right? I'm probably gonna shoot at best from seated, maybe even standing against one of those trees because I'm looking at the vegetation, lots of good natural rest for a standing shooter that needs elevation, right? So I'm gonna know all of that before I go on the stock, and part of that is pinpointing exactly where the animal is, exactly where you wanna be at the end of your stock. So here we're gonna measure this distance. Boom, boom, 42 yards. So I know if I'm at that spot right there, I'm 42 yards from that bull. That's gonna be a dead bull. All I gotta do is get there. But you can just see right now, just that little bit of planning gives you the right answer and gives you a good plan. If you just ad hoc it, you're not gonna end up in the right spot. You're gonna think the animal's at a different distance than it is. You're not gonna know anything about the vegetation you're dealing with, the shooting position you're dealing with, none of that stuff. And honestly, not knowing that, given the tools that we have, is just idiotic. You can do this with very simple tools. Onyx, rangefinder, mark it, you're good to go. That should be a go-to thing before you step 1 foot into the stock right there. You're gonna be a shitload more effective if you do that on every archery stock, every rifle stock. Do that every time. So guys, I'm actually out here making content to augment my online elk hunting course. I go over this sort of thing in depth. Just the stock component of the course has over an hour and a half of material. If you're interested, go check it out. It's at pursuitwithcliff.com/elk. All the details on the course are there. Lots of useful stuff. I basically just do a brain dump based on all my experience guiding and all my experience watching hundreds of hunters in my outfitting business and dozens of guides go out there and hunt elk. I truly believe it'll make you a better elk hunter. Now, if you just want some more free stuff, go check out this video. I go through the wind in depth. It's also a chunk that was pulled out of that course and stuck here on YouTube for free. So go check it out, guys. I hope you find value in it. I'll catch you later.